Hi, this is Morley and this is the M-Wire. I did a video a couple of weeks ago on the coming Civil War, and this is just further evidence that that's going to see fruition. Things are definitely going to be heating up in the United States over the next little while. I mean, with all the violence that's happening in Chicago and whatnot, I just did a video on that. It's getting crazy. Antifa terrorists in Austin, Portland just received a large cache of weapons in preparation for coordinated multi-city Tet offensive against America. We've just learned that Antifa terrorist groups in Austin, Texas and Portland, Oregon have received a large cache of weapons that are being handed to them in preparation for their coordinated multi-city uprising. Dubbed the Tet Offensive by Dave Hodges, The Common Sense Show, this planned multi-city attacks looks likely to take place before the coming election as anti-American forces now realize Joe Biden cannot win. So their new goal is to unleash so much chaos across America that elections be suspended, allowing the Marxist media to roll out its Trump is a dictator narrative. The new delivery of weapons to Antifa forces on or around August 9th has been confirmed by reliable sources. It is consistent with the previous announcements by U.S. Customs and Border Protection describing government seizures of full auto weapons parts and illegal suppressors that were intercepted during shipment from Communist China to several U.S. cities including Detroit, Michigan, Louisville, Kentucky, and Melbourne, Florida. Natural News previously reported that the corrupt government in California was storing weapons for Antifa terrorists in the N Complex Capitol building in Sacramento at Block 174. This is all part of a criminal scheme by treasonous Governor Newsom to arm terrorists as part of an uprising against the United States of America, during which California plans to secede from the Union and join Communist China, allowing China to install nuclear weapons on U.S. soil and establish a beachhead for land invasion in the continental USA. In addition, Natural News has reported on U.S. government agents intercepting illegal weapons parts into other U.S. cities, unveiling a massive weapons trafficking operation that combines U.S. cooperation money with China-based weapons smuggling to provide military-grade weapons upgrades to radical left-wing terrorists such as Antifa and BLM. As reported on July 15, 2020, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials have seized an operation in Detroit that smuggles suppressors, silencers, into the United States from China, also for the purpose of arming Black Lives Matter militant extremists. More than 350 suppressors seized by law enforcement across the country were purchased from the website and smuggled into the United States from China as automotive parts. Attorney General Barr warns urban guerrilla warfare is now active across America. With so many battlefield weapons, why so many battlefield weapons? Because Antifa and BLM aren't peaceful protesters. They're radical revolutionary groups that plan to carry out mass killings to achieve their political goals of overthrowing the United States of America. Matt Bracken at AmericanPartisan.org writes that Antifa and BLM are simply cover names for the real organization behind all this. The Revolutionary Communist Party of the USA, which has long planned a guerrilla warfare, urban uprising in an attempt to overthrow the United States of America. In fact, U.S. Attorney General William Barr is now describing these radical left-wing terrorist forces as the new form of urban guerrilla warfare via Fox News. They are a revolutionary group that is interested in some form of socialism, communism. They're essentially Bolsheviks. Their tactics are fascistic. The way the guerrilla hides out among the people is like a fish in the ocean. What they do are essentially shielding themselves or shrouding themselves in First Amendment activity. What Barr isn't talking about publicly is how Antifa and BLM have standing orders to launch massive multi-city assault on police and innocent civilians in order to terrorize Americans and spark a shooting response from pro-America forces. As we have previously reported, reliable intel that Black Lives Matter terrorist cells are going to carry out an armed flash mob killing sprees using weapons purchased from the hundreds of millions of dollars in corporate donations that have been funneled into the terrorist group via the Black Lives Matter media propaganda. These armed flash mobs killings appear to be imminent. Antifa snipers on rooftops killing police and innocent civilians. Just last week, InfoWars acquired a leaked Austin police document that described Antifa's plan of placing snipers on rooftops around the city of Austin, then opening fire on police officers and innocent civilians. Antifa terrorists were also, according to the leaked memo, planning on burning down the police Austin PD headquarters building, most likely with police officers trapped inside. This has become a favorite tactic of Antifa terrorists in Portland. We are also aware that both Antifa and Black Lives Matter terrorists are being heavily armed by Communist China as well as hundreds of U.S. corporations that are funneling financial support to BLM-linked money laundering operations that use the funds to purchase illegal weapons. There are at least 269 U.S. corporations involved in this money laundering weapons trafficking operation. You can see them all listed here. They include such operations as Apple, Netflix, and Amazon. Amazon and many others you would recognize. Nearly every big tech corporation you can think of is actively engaged in financially supporting terrorism in America. They don't even want to try and hide it. They brag about it. The NBA paints terrorist slogans on its basketball courts, and the NFL has essentially handed over the entire existence to BLM terrorists. Through Antifa and Black Lives Matter terrorists, these corporations are waging an all-out war against the United States of America, openly pursuing acts of sedition and treason against the nation, while knowingly arming terror cells that are so violent and murderous that even left-wing mayors like Ted Wheeler of Portland are decrying their acts of attempted murder. The donations help fund weapons procurement from Communist China, smuggling in full auto weapons upgrades, and illegal silencer suppressors, which will allow radical left-wing terrorists to operate with some degree of stealth as they carry out the prearranged execution hits on police officers at their private homes. In preparation for the Tet Offensive, a nationwide Kill Police has been assembled spanning for the last 6 months, consisting of names and home addresses of police officers, sheriffs, deputies, where possible, federal law enforcement agents. I just did a video on the police officer that was attacked in Wisconsin, so that supports evidence of this. We also have learned that the last few weeks that Antifa have recruited UPS drivers to snap photos of delivery address tags of residential packages suspected of containing ammunition or gun parts. Antifa organizers are using these photos to assemble their hit lists of private residential homes to assault in order to acquire new supplies of firearms and ammunition. We have also confirmed that the Palmetto State Armory, one of the nation's largest shippers of firearm parts, is now covering their cardboard boxes with plain white wrapping in order to conceal their own retail name, most likely because UPS employees are also stealing firearm parts from PSA and other similar retailers. The ATF has made several arrests in the last few months of UPS employees stealing firearms during shipment. To all patriots, you will be facing full auto fire from organized and well-funded Marxist revolutionary forces. The upshot of all this is that America's patriots, police, and other federal law enforcement officials need to immediately upgrade your threat assessment of left-wing terror cells. The very same groups that are currently throwing bricks and fireworks will soon be rolling out full auto weapons, long-range sniper rifles, and coordinated laser attacks that can blind law enforcement officials in mere seconds. We are currently recommending all law enforcement acquire and wear laser protective glasses that not only block green lasers but the 532 nm range, and also consider blocking other wavelengths that might be deployed by left-wing terror forces using Chinese manufactured laser devices. Most important, America are complete unprepared to engage full auto rifles fire from determined organized revolutionary forces. The police will be outgunned and rendered ineffective in mere minutes, especially given the most police departments answer to treasonous Democrat mayors who are ordering them to carry out very little ammunition while limiting their weaponry to pistols. We hate to point out the obvious, but semi-auto 9mm handguns won't do much against full-auto 9.62x39 enemy AK rifles. Police forces have been deliberately weakened by Democrat mayors as part of their coordinated attacks of treason against America. Only police SWAT teams will have any chance at engaging left-wing revolutionary forces, but SWAT teams are very few in number and they aren't used to outnumber highly maneuverable enemy forces that can flank them. Your average SWAT shooter has never been flanked and threatened from the rear for starters. They only have operated from the context of presenting overwhelming force so that they are unfamiliar with the dynamic battlefields unless they have previous military combat experience. As a result, the left-wing uprising begins, and most city-based law enforcement will be slaughtered within hours. Many cities across America will be seized by left-wing revolutionary forces. Chaz Chop was a dry run for this exact scenario. And what they are learning from Chaz is that there will be near zero resistance from the liberal cities, as woke-tard liberals still think communism is friendly and Marxism is justice. The only resistance that is going to come is from armed citizens and organized militia groups, given that the National Guard will also be largely useless since treasonous Democrat governors will be siding with terrorists and order Guard troops to stand down. This means every American citizen who owns a firearm needs to be prepared to engage in real-world battle with revolutionary left-wing forces who will be wielding full-auto weapons with ballistic gear, radio communications, and drone support. The defense of America will be up to its armed citizens. The Second Amendment gives us a fighting chance. This is why we have been warning everyone across America to arm up and get training at local militia. By hunting ammo and powerful hunting class rifles such as the 300 Win Mag rifles, learn long-range shooting because the key advantage will be found outranging the enemy. Learn how to engage at 500, 1,000 yards, which is typically far outside their close combat capabilities. Understand that the left-wing terrorists will seize all the major cities and all the patriots will find themselves fighting guerrilla-style campaigns to try and slow down the disruptive enemy long enough for the U.S. military to arrive. Naturally, President Trump will be forced to deploy the military to try to retake U.S. cities. This is when China, the Mexican narcos, and the United Nations will all deploy combative forces on U.S. soil in an attempt to occupy and control key strategic points such as airports, roadways, ports, bridges, oil refineries, power grid assets, and so on. Large armored vehicles will move into the U.S. from the southern border, and we've been previously told that Antifa has also managed to steal a certain number of mine-resistant armored personnel carriers in California. As U.S. military forces will spread very thin, this battle is going to come down to U.S. patriots, veterans, organized militia, and civilians taking up arms and eliminating all enemies of America. It is nearly 500 million guns in the hands of NRA members, hunters, and Second Amendment supporters that's going to make the difference in this coming war. Gather up all the guns and ammo you can find right now. Acquire good optics for long-range shooting. Get your dope sheets ready. Measure the muzzle velocities and run ballistics range cards in advance. Use expanding tip hunting rounds from reliable bullet manufacturers such as Hornady or Berger. Find a bullet grain and stick with it for your entire ammo supply in that caliber so you have the same dope for all your rounds. Ask God to give you strength and courage because you are going to have to defeat large numbers of human beings who are enemies to the nation. There is no room for hesitation or fear. You have a job to do, and to do that job once the left terrorists launch their Tet offensive against America is to put high-velocity lead through the chest cavities of as many enemy combatants as possible with the greatest efficiency and accuracy as possible. Do not condone initiating violence, but once the left-wing terrorists launch their offensive against America, you must respond to their treason with aggression and ruthlessness. You will need to join with other locals to sabotage the enemy's supply lines, harass their vehicle convoys, shut down their power grids, deprive them of food, water, and communications lines. If you can delay and harass them for long enough, the U.S. military will eventually get to your position and render aid in the form of air power, artillery, and land warfare such as tanks and Humvees. But don't expect them on day one. It's going to be your job to hold your city, your state, and your nation until the professional soldiers arrive. Fight like you're a citizen of Stalingrad in World War II facing the entire German 6th Army. Fight for your life, or you will lose it. The German 6th Army was eventually surrounded, cut off from supplies, and defeated. Get ready, America. The battle is coming to your doorstep. The radical left will unleash blood in your streets, and they will seize your cities, towns, and communities. For if you let them, they are arming up for it right now, and the left-wing media narrative is setting the stage to justify their actions by calling them peaceful. Red Dawn is about to become your reality. Learn to fight like your life depends on it, because it does. Your entire future depends on it. Engage the enemy without mercy, for they are being armed and activated to mass murder as many patriots, police officers, military veterans, Christians, Trump supporters, gun owners, and white people as possible. If you do not find the courage to stand up to them and defeat them in defense of your nation, you will be overrun, then raped and looted and murdered by these radical left-wing forces. Remember, these people who mass murder their own babies and celebrate as women's rights, these are the people who mutilate the genitals of their own children and call it LGBT progressivism. They will think nothing of killing you. They actually experience joy from the mutilation and murder of human beings. They are the demonic creatures who have long since abandoned any shred of humanity. Remember that when that day comes that you must shoot in defense of your nation. They aren't human. This seems like a very extreme scenario, but I mean, given the events of what's happening, it's not exactly as far-fetched as it sounds. I highly encourage everyone to share this video and to be safe. Keep your loved ones safe. 1776 2.0 isn't very far away, folks. Thank you very much for coming along for this long video. I greatly appreciate it. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I'd appreciate that even more. Thank you very much, and God bless.